Man, Mr. Beast is Mr. Beast got a lot going on right now, man. So basically, I believe somebody on his team named Chris Tyson went through a transformation from a man and wants to be known as a woman. And basically, there's been a lot of stuff that's been happening, and I'm just gonna get into the whole video because I don't really know a lot about it. I just know that his friend is now trans, and basically if he kicks him off of his off of the Mr. Beast brand, he's gonna be looked at a certain way, and keeping him on basically means he's gonna be losing a lot of people who follow him, and also he's gonna be looked at a certain way as well. So let's just get into the video so we can know more about the situation.
And however, it may also provide some unique benefits. So let's begin by going over the drama before explaining exactly how this will impact the Mr. Beast channel. In mid-2022, fans began to notice that Chris Tyson was changing. In the early days, he represented the quintessential southern gun and truck loving dude, yet beginning in March 2022, Chris began to display increasingly feminine traits, making tweets such as, "I finally got my nails done at a nail tech."
Straight men who paint their nails. Let's put, there are guys out there who paint their nails and they say it's for emotional reasons or something like that. I have never in my life heard men painting their nails and it being a emotion thing. Nails have always been tied to being a feminine trait. I don't know where men started painting their nails or whatever. Maybe it's like a punk rock thing or something like that, but I've never heard of that before in my life, and I just decided I thought that was something to just mention after seeing the Chris's nails being painted.
Additionally, Chris would highlight that his facial appearance had changed significantly since the start of the pandemic, which accompanied another post reading, "Okay, so in 4 different customs, I had to prove I was myself because I, quote, look nothing like my passport pic, so much that I'm considering updating my passport. Do you see any resemblance?" Prompting replies such as, "You went from man to boy." Chris responded by stating, "Nah, to be honest, I just really started taking my mental health seriously," insinuating that Chris was becoming more feminine, with his same kind of look showing up in his Mr. Beast appearances. For example, on the 6th of January 2023, Beast Reacts uploaded a video titled "I strapped a GoPro to a fish," in which Chris dressed in a way that prompted comments such as, "Chris has been adopting more and more traits that remind me of my grandmother." Okay, so some people just gonna ignore Chris's nails? Chris had to have lost a bet. The look is getting wild. The response to the video then prompted countless viral TikToks, such as this one with 700,000 likes, stating, "How did Chris go from this to this?" While others even made the claim that Carl had turned him gay. Now, this was pretty ridiculous, as Carl isn't even that feminine, and Chris had come out as bisexual years before he and Carl had even met.
Oh, okay, so it starts there. Nobody looked into the fact that Chris had already announced that he was bi. So him making the transition, him making a whole transition now, it's like he already told y'all he was already on this wave before.
With his wife to his Instagram, yet after this, the family photo stopped altogether. Fans also noticed that he'd removed his wedding ring, with the ring's absence correlating perfectly with the very first post in which he'd painted his nails. Chris confirmed the split in a post from March 2023 reading, "For a little over a year now, me and Katie have been separated," with this also confirming that Chris's transformation began as soon as his marriage came to an end. Chris went from lighting campfires and raising a family with his beautiful wife to now trying to be a wife with his man buns and long nails. As the criticism continued to pile, Chris announced that he'd be taking a break from social media, and while there was a possibility that Chris would make efforts to return to his former
maybe him and his former wife didn't work out, they grew apart or something like that, and maybe Chris couldn't take the fact that that woman was probably his one true person that he really cared for, and maybe this is it started as an emotional thing and then it turned into something else.
himself. He'd rather do the opposite and double down on his feminine image, showing up to the Kids' Choice Awards looking like this, before making the announcement that he'd been doing HRT for approximately 2 months, which according to a quick Google search is the medical process for changing genders. Chris
okay, I was just about to ask.
Informed consent HRT saved my and many others' lives. The hurdles GNC people have to jump through to get life-saving gender-affirming healthcare in a first world country is wild to me. Just let people make informed decisions about their own bodies, which received a positive response from both Carl and Mr.Beast, who wrote, "Got you, I did one more heart than Carl because I'm a better friend." While his co-workers expressed positivity, others weren't so welcoming. There goes a father figure the kid won't ever be able to look up men, and weak men create hard times. Weak man times. Chris responded to this comment by stating, "This is just more dog whistling that somehow trans and GNC folks aren't safe around kids. Tucker begs for me to come back when I leave for like 2 days to film. He is so loved and happy. Kids aren't born with hate.
He has a kid?
By people that only know Tucker." Chris's response received some positivity such as, "I'm convinced you're an amazing father. Tucker is lucky to have you and also lucky to have all of those who surround and support you in his life, as well as I adore that. I'm glad you made that decision. It's so much easier to be a parental figure when you're not struggling with dysphoria, yet he'd also receive an equal amount of backlash. You ripped apart your family and took a father figure away from your son just so you could paint your nails and act zesty. Pathetic. He will get torn apart at school, won't want to have friends around his house. A life full of difference and being alone. Must have missed the point in that tweet. How's this for him when you're depriving
these
him
people
of a
going
father
in
figure?"
on him.
Although Chris wasn't altered by these comments, as he'd once again reiterate his certainty in a new post reading, "It's never too late to start being yourself," which received praise from Mr.Beast as well as Nolan and Carl. However, these comments also added extra fuel to the fire. In a few years, look back at this thread and remember they were never your friends. Only yes men cowards. Hope you come out of this safe. Mr.Beast responded to this with a simple opinion irrelevant ratio.
See, my whole entire thing is like, I understand why Mr. Beast is like responding or acting the way he's acting, is because like, bro, he's trying to protect his brand. He's trying to protect the money. Like, he don't want to lose any and all he got. Cause I mean, isn't Mr. Beast like Christian? So like, this totally goes against his values. This totally goes against the entire lifestyle that he subscribes to. So I'm sure he's doing this for like a different reason and not it being like, I mean, I know that's his friend at the end of the day and they grew up together and all of that, but like at the end of the day, like if he denies him like his whole entire like structured business that he and his friends built just goes down the tube. Like I totally get what he's doing here.
To which the original commenter would state, "I have 30 followers, so go ahead and ratio me. I'll still rest easy knowing that I'm not a coward who idly sits by watching my friend ruin his own life." In some ways, it was nice to see the boys standing up for Chris on Twitter. However, the situation has already begun to change the dynamic within the videos. For example, in a recent livestream titled "Opening 1,000 Mystery Art Boxes," Chris would once again dress in quite a feminine way, and while everybody participated as usual, the energy and vibe didn't feel nearly as smooth as it normally does. It felt as though there was an unaddressed elephant in the room, and therefore everybody was in their head, as opposed to being in the present moment enjoying each other's company. Maybe everybody was simply too busy opening packages, but Chris did make these bizarre jokes about Jimmy being female, making him incredibly uncomfortable.
Like cringe, uncomfortable. Look at his face, dog. Like he looks so uncomfortable. Dog, Jimmy looks so uncomfortable. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. He looks so trying his best to hide his real emotion. Like, bruh.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, it's Jimmy. How did fan art? This is what we were looking for. Be brave, be honest, be kind. Mr. Beast. That is my tagline.
Becoming even weirder when each member started to pay each other compliments.
Hey.
For the most part, the live stream was devoid of awkward moments. However, it would act as fodder for another 100 million views worth of drama and criticism. Chris likely believes that people will slowly adapt to his new appearance over time, but is this really going to happen? Well, maybe.
So.
It's difficult to say as the situation is fairly unique, especially when considering Chris's reputation and influence. However, if Chris continues to transition, would it be unreasonable to say that he could jeopardize some of the personality traits which made him a successful member in the first place? Perhaps the opposite will happen, and he'll instead pick up new personality traits that better resonate with the current Mr. Beast audience. This was put forward in many comments supportive of Chris, who implied that there'll be millions of queer kids who look up to him, although this doesn't necessarily mean that it'll add any value to the videos. Mr. Beast has likely cultivated a massive LGBT audience, all of whom are already watching anyway, and if we've learned anything from Hollywood in recent years, it's that adding over-the-top LGBT characters for the sake of relatability rarely works as intended and is often nothing more than a distraction from the premise of the movie or video. On top of this, it can be uncomfortable and unrelatable for the silent majority, although as we have seen, a situation like Chris's does have the potential to create an otherworldly amount of discussion, which could be seen as a benefit for the MrBeast brand.
Drama is good for growth, 100%. That would be an easy way to up my
So you're a Keemstar?
The problem is this type of situation is probably the last thing that MrBeast wants to attract, as he's forced to agree with Chris's position, as he has no way of manipulating the situation.
And this is where it gets. This is where the water gets hotter for Jimmy, because Jimmy and or MrBeast is he's already getting hated for things he's done. Like before this situation, the blind video where he cured a bunch of people's blindness, it was so much backlash for that video, even though it was a positive video. If it's not that video, there's another video recently that he did where he had given a woman a car, and people found a way to just turn that into hate. It's like, you already know the saying, like, you're the hero in a lot of people's eyes, and you live long enough to be seen as a villain. You know, it's just like kind of like how Batman is seen as this good vigilante. He saves people, but in the daytime he is a rich billionaire that is hated by his entire city. So it's just basically the same thing with MrBeast. He does good things. He does good things, and he makes a lot of money. He's the biggest person on YouTube, but he helps people, but he's hated. And sometimes I feel like he's just hated for no reason. I don't get it, but like now the situation is so like, there's nothing you can even like, there's no way to, I don't know. There's no way to like go in this situation. You're just at a standstill
without being painted as the bad guy. It's a lose-lose situation for MrBeast. I think Jimmy is in an inescapable situation. If he kicks out Chris, cancelled. If he don't, his channel will die for real. An inescapable situation is a pretty good way of describing the drama, which is also why it deserves the harsh label of being a nightmare. Jimmy has no option but to publicly express acceptance of Chris's transition, as silence or even worse, disapproval would come with obvious severe repercussions. However, in accepting Chris's transition, Jimmy implies that this will be the new normal within the content, thus annoying a different group of people, many of whom will never express their true feelings and may rather simply click on fewer MrBeast videos. If this is the case, Jimmy has no option but to accept this fate, as removing Chris from the videos in any kind of way could create an even more severe media firestorm. The only clean solution, should things go south, might be for Chris to resign himself, and even then,
him quitting and going to go start his own YouTube channel is still gonna bring a massive amount of hate towards MrBeast, because it's gonna make it look like MrBeast told his friend to like quit, and then that's in turn gonna be another like sea of hate towards MrBeast and the channel.
And rumors and bad press will be unavoidable. Whether it be arrogance or ignorance, Chris seems oblivious to how this whole thing might impact Jimmy, forgetting that he achieved his current level of success by avoiding this exact type of drama.
That's a fact. But I mean, I'm just not, I mean, I don't even know what to say. I don't know, man. This is a sticky situation. That's all I can say. It's a very sticky situation.